Hey guys, it's Faith. I missed you guys last week. Super sorry about that. I got very sick, couldn't make it here. So I want to make up and just give you guys like a simple little video this week. We're just going to touch base on probate and, trust, why a probate, that kind of stuff. We will dig in a little bit deeper into the nitty gritty in other videos. I want to keep them simple and short. We have small, short attention spans nowadays. So let's get right to it. Now, if you have a will, do you have to go through probate? And the answer is maybe. It really depends. If if someone passes away, even though you are the executor of the will, you aren't allowed to just go in and do as you please. You aren't just going to look at the will and be like, oh, I'm going to do this and do that. No, you have to get court permission and court approval for all of that. So if if the person passes away and they have money in the drawer next to the bed, or if they have jewelry or the furniture, whatever it is, you can't just go and start taking the property. You can't just go and take the money. You can't go to the bank and just withdraw funds. You need to go through the court process and get approval to do all of that. One of the biggest things about going through the court, going through probate, is to make sure that the will is valid, to make sure that there's even a will. So that's number one there. You can't just do as you please once the person passes on. So if you are the executor of the will and you actually fail to take action to start probate, let's say I pass away, I have a will, and my son is the executor of the will, but he actually doesn't even inform the court of my passing. There's an affidavit that needs to be filed and he doesn't do that. And he goes ahead and he starts making movement on my estate. He could actually be held liable and responsible for any financial impacts on my estate for other beneficiaries. He could actually even be persecuted in court for doing all of this without their permission. So it's really important that whoever you do name as executor of will understands the process, and you have a family attorney or someone that you can lean on during those times, someone that can step in and make sure they understand. Now, a few things would actually avoid probate. Having a trust is number one. Let's say I pass on, I have a trust. My successor trustee is my son, my eldest son. Boom, he doesn't need permission from the court. He doesn't even need to wait for my death certificate. If he's just like, rah, 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 mom is passed on, it's time to get things rolling, he could actually just go with that, go according to the trust and perform the activities and the duties that he has to do as the successor trustee of my estate. So having a trust is super important. We'll touch base a little bit about how to start a trust and all of that good stuff in another video. But trust is number one. That's a great way to avoid probate. Everything is laid out there. Number two, some things that won't have to go through probate: assets in a bank, assets in investment firms won't have to go through probate. If you have a payable upon death filed with them, where everything is properly listed out in terms in black and white, stating this and that, this is the person that I'm putting in charge. All you have to do is bring a death certificate to the bank. If I have that payable on death filed, they'll go ahead and proceed and give the person I gave permission to ownership of the account. I have some notes here, so I don't want to forget anything. Another great thing is life insurance. Life insurance is actually paid directly to beneficiaries, so you won't have to go through probate for that. Other assets that are between $20,000 and $184,000 more than likely won't have to go through full probate. You will need to still file with the court. They'll give you, it's a much more simpler, not a full probate process. So that's another way to avoid full probate. There are some deeds, some titles that are just transferred upon death. I have a client that has the Todd title on death. It's in replacement for a trust. Acts like a trust, almost similar, but it isn't a trust, and more than likely it's much more simpler. It just tells you right away who's in charge, what percentage of the estate they're in charge of, what they get, that kind of stuff. Of course, any assets that are jointly owned by spouses, usually the surviving spouse will go ahead and claim ownership to that, won't have to get a full probate done. However, if you failed to jointly titled jointly title your assets, for example, then unfortunately you would have to go through some probate process. Now, a lot of times the spousal petition will be your saving grace there. Won't have to go through a full court process. It'll be a lot easier on the pocket, but they still will have to go through court, some kind of semi-probate in order to get that spousal petition approved by the judge. Let's say that you have a trust and it's not titled to you have a property and it's not titled in your trust. It's in your will, but not your trust. Now, there are certain situations where you could be saved by, some actions. One big one is an Hegstad petition. And in a Hegstad petition, it's when it's clear to the court that the property should have been in the trust. An example of this is when a homeowner has a property in a trust and tries to get a refinance on the property. Most banks will actually tell the owner hey, we need you to deed it back to your personal name and then we'll go ahead and give you the loan. A lot of times what we find owners do is they forget to title it back into the trust after they get the loan. So in that case, if owner passes away, property's not in a trust, but it's clear to the court that it should have been, it's part of their assets, then they'll more than likely just go ahead and avoid full probate on that and allow it to move as if it was in the trust. That is called a Hegstad petition, and we're gonna dig a little bit more deeper into these other things in other videos. The goals of probate, just to end it here, of course, it's to establish whether there's a will and whether it's even a valid will. It's to figure out who the heirs and beneficiaries are. It's to make sure that all of the assets are appropriately accounted for and that they're distributed amongst, the heirs and beneficiaries properly as well. It's to make sure that the right person is even in charge of the estate. Super big thing there. Court will have to approve the person that's going to be put in charge of the estate. Making sure that the person that passed on's financial responsibilities are taken care of. That could be taxes, loans, any other debts, other things, that kind of stuff. And finally, it's to make sure that the transfer of the asset, the sale is closed, and that any funds are actually deposited into the proper estate account. So super simple. If you have more questions, let me know. I'm always open to a message, to any questions you may have, and we'll dig a little bit deeper in other videos. Okay. Cheers. Happy Friday out here in Cali, but sending love to you all. Be smart. Bye.